Hey everybody, it's Jesse, and today I'm going to attempt something that I haven't done before, and I'm not exactly sure how I'm going to do it, and I'm excited about it. I don't know about you, but I get excited when I'm going to do something that's going to be cool and useful to the user, and especially when I'm not really sure how I'm going to do it, because I know I'm going to learn something, and it's going to be awesome when it comes together and happens. So uh, let me show you. I'm kind of right in the middle of kind of taking this stuff and making it its own component, and I was going to put it in the utils folder, and because I'm going to use this in multiple pages now, so it'd probably be better if it was separated out. So that's in anticipation for what we're about to do. And let me bring a window over so you can see. So I did make, oh, that's no good. I made the search function live. So for now, this is the alignment of the search. If you watch this show when we set this up, there was a lot of debate over how we should align this. So I'm expecting another input to be here in the near future. We'll see how it goes. If we end up not putting something here, then maybe this will change. But for now, it's right here, and it works. And we also added the images are live. They don't show up all the time when I'm doing local development, but on catechetics.com, the images show up. At least one image. There's only one image that's been uploaded that's big enough to actually be used. The rest of them, the width gets checked, and it doesn't use them if they're not wide enough. So what we're going to work on today, alright, I'll just show you over here. For some reason it's not reloading. But the live site will be fine. So what I want to do on the events page, down at the bottom right now, I have this responsive table, right? So it works even on small screens because you get to scroll horizontally, and obviously even when it gets smaller, still works. Not ideal if you're on a screen this small, but it's definitely more usable than a normal table would be, which would throw off everything, and we'd have horizontal scrolling of the entire page. So what I want to be able to do, all these are pulled in from the WordPress API. So what I think I should do, it might be the easiest, is I want these to be sortable. So if you click date, you can get it from, right now it shows the events. Let's see. So the events that are coming up the soonest are first. So that's by default how everything's sorted, which makes sense. People probably want to know what's coming up soonest, but there's a lot of other things you could sort by here. So potentially someone might want to sort by any of these things, with the exception of link, obviously. Probably the emails don't need to be sorted by, but I could see definitely these. You might want to sort by these. Although it kind of stinks everybody has doctor in front of their name, because it's not. Is everybody? If everyone's a doctor, maybe it'll work out. But no, see. So it is going to kind of mess up the alphabetical sorting here, since people have doctor. But other than that, you can see my point. It would be nice to be able to sort this either, alphabetical order, reverse alphabetical order, maybe reverse it so we see the events that are coming up the latest first. I think location will probably be the most useful. Maybe somebody's not interested in traveling far, so they don't care about events not near them. So maybe they want to, sort it by that. The other thing I'd like to do if I have time is have a search bar for this. So just like we had on the resources page, they could search. I'm not sure where I would put the search bar in this setup here. It would be a little bit more awkward awkward looking, I think, to fit it in here. So I have to give some thought to that. But I can at least get the functionality down, and then worry later on about how I'm going to style that. But the search function could be super useful, because you could potentially just put in the name of your city or a city near you and then get that, or the name of a speaker that you really like, and then they would just auto-populate just like the resources. So at first I thought I would just take whatever data automatically got pulled in, on the initial page load from the WordPress API, and then just manipulate that data to sort it differently. But then I thought maybe it would be better to actually make another API call when we do a sort. And I'm not 100% decided on this, but my reasoning being, the limit on how many events I can get from an API call is 100. So there may be some way around that limit, but that's the limit I've hit with the WordPress API. It limits you to 100, which is fine. You don't want to pull in a ton of data, but for something like this, it's not really a lot. It's just some text, JSON. So I had thought, well, if somebody, if they really wanted to get a more accurate listing, let's say they want to go in reverse alphabetical order. Well, they want to see everything from these speakers. So I don't know. Not just whatever the first 100 that came up. Let's say there's 500 events in here. I don't think there'll ever be that many, but if there were 500, they'd be missing out on most of the events. So anyway, think about that. Let me know what you think on what would a user expect from sorting this. Or is there a totally different way? Or would just the search bar be sufficient, and I shouldn't even worry necessarily about the sorting as much? Alright, I'm going to go and say hi to everybody in the live chat. I just wanted to get everything out of the way for people that are joining maybe for the first time. Just kind of let them know what's going on. If you are joining for the first time, this is just me streaming projects that I'm working on for my everyday job. So it's not necessarily a tutorial. Sometimes it kind of feels more like a tutorial, but a lot of times it's me just trying to figure out how to do things, and everybody watching helping out with that. So if you're interested in that, stick around. If not, thanks for joining in, and maybe join a different time. All right, so let me look. It looks like everybody's just saying hi. Hey, everyone. Oh, there's spoilers. It says Hitarth. I'm not sure if that's how you pronounce the name. Sorry if I mispronounced it. Hitarth says, want spoilers? Something new is coming to FCC, Free Code Camp. I'm interested in that. I don't know. Is anybody else interested? I don't know what spoilers it would be, but I'd be excited about something new. Hey, Andy asked what's going on. Hopefully you just heard my explanation. It looks like you asked that before I explained it, so hopefully you got that. Also, so Andy M is in the live chat. He also does live streams. So I haven't really talked to Andy about it, but I did check out a little bit. I only had a few minutes the other day, but I thought I want to check out some of the live streams. So I didn't watch a lot, but I did check it out. So if you want more live streaming, check out Andy's channel on YouTube. All right, so we got one question in the live chat. It says, what data are you pulling at the moment? A limited number of events by date. Yeah, so right now the data that I'm pulling is 100 events. Now what I think I may have made this so that it doesn't show previous events. Let's take a minute and look at what the code. I did this a few weeks ago, so I actually can't remember. I know I had intended to make it like that, but I can't remember if I did. So let's go into events. I'm going to come back to this in a minute, but let's go to events and see. Okay, so I'm filtering by date, order by sending. So I should look down where I'm actually using it. Maybe I have. Oh, now I remember. I did end up. I ended up doing something. Maybe I didn't. Maybe I'm not seeing it here. If you all see this, and you can check out the GitHub repo. It's all updated at this point, and you can check this out as well. The link's in the description. I also have links to what we worked on yesterday, which was setting up Prettier and Standard JS, which, by the way, is really amazing. I'm really liking using that. So Vinay submitted that pull request to set all that up, and I really appreciate that because every time I use it, I just love it even more. So let me just explain, since I can't find in the code whether or not I actually did this. Here's what my intention was. I'm obviously pulling a date here. So I have two different dates that I'm pulling. One is the displayed date. So that's what you see here. So this is the format that it was requested that the date be put in. So that's how it shows up. And that's just a text field that whoever's managing that content puts in there. They can put whatever they want in there. But that's not really easy to sort by, right? So I needed a better format for the date. So then I also added a field that would give me the date in a format that was easier to use. So I have that format as well. And I'm not doing anything with it yet, it looks like, at least here. But my intention was to only show events that were going to happen. So any events that had already happened, they wouldn't show up anymore. Now, I guess it wouldn't be ideal to do it here and to sort it here because that would be a waste of data being sent. So the ideal place to do it would be actually, sorry for all the scrolling around here, it would be actually here where I make the call. So I give these parameters for what data I want. And then that way I wouldn't even waste time even grabbing data that I know I'm not going to use. So I'm going to filter by date. But I don't think I'm... Yeah, I'm not doing it there. I'm not sure how I do it. So I have it set up so that it could be done in terms of the data coming through. And I'll show you what it looks like. Let's we'll take a look at the raw data. That might be a good place to start, and then we'll all be on the same page in terms of what data we're actually getting and how we can manipulate that to do what we want. It sounds bad when I say I'm going to manipulate the data like I'm doing something wrong to it, but I'm not. I'm just going to add it into the site. Event. Alright, so here's the data that I'm getting. We have a title, so here's the date. This is what I was talking about, and it's easier just to show you. So we have two dates. There's the display date, and then we have the actual date, and it comes in this, just in this format, which is, it's a nice, easy format in that, I can just sort on the date I don't even have to convert this or anything like that, which if you've worked with dates in JavaScript, it's not always the most pleasant thing to do, but I don't even have to worry about that. It's just one number. The higher the number means the later the date. So what do you think? I'm gonna go to, before I do this, I make a decision on this. I'm gonna go to a live stream. I'm gonna see if I've gotten responses to any of the. I think I've asked several questions over the last couple minutes, so I don't want to get too far ahead of myself. I may have had some really good ideas come through in the live chat. Oscar says hi from Colombia. Hey, how's it going? Thanks for watching. Dennis asks, is that Dennis or Denise? Sorry if I'm mispronouncing that. Denis. What do you think about async await promises? I'm actually using await, like async await stuff here. I don't think I'm knowledgeable enough about async await and promises to give a really good answer. I will say the few times that I've used them, I've really liked using them. Basically, it's always in the context of using fetch that I end up using async await and promises and stuff. So I like it, but I don't know enough about it to give you any detailed explanation of it. But it's definitely easier than like having lots of callbacks and things like that. Umberto says, I'm always working using database backend and still don't have much information about WordPress API, but maybe a drop-down for each row to filter on dates. The filter would be a date range. Names would be a list to pick from. Event titles and locations. It says possibly too much functionality for a small feature. I hadn't thought about it before. Let me think about that for a second. So let me bring this over so you can just get the visual. So we're thinking there would be a drop down for each row. And then in that drop down, they could select something, either a date range or something else in those rows to filter by. That could work. That could definitely work. I could populate the drop downs based on the data that I get from the API. So everything that was in here could be in the drop down. I could do a check, and if it equaled something that was already in the drop down, it wouldn't put it in twice. That could work. It would be, you're right, it would be a lot of work. It might be overkill for this feature. But I think in terms of the layout of the site, this is kind of tucked away now. You know, it's at the bottom of this page, which I realize this is the main event that's being put on by this Catechetical Institute. So in terms of conferences, this and this are their main conferences. So this is more of a collaboration, I think, with another department here, but you know, this is their main conference, so they do want to highlight that. But really, from a user's perspective, this is probably going to be one of the most useful parts of the site. I would say this and the resource section that we've been working on for the last week or so. So it might warrant a little bit more work. I don't know. Let me know what you all think about that. Or would it, you know, we could potentially do something similar just with a search bar that auto suggests things, and we could populate the auto suggest from these values as well. Would that be cleaner? I'm a little worried about the clutter of drop downs. All right, let's I want to get into some code. So there's definitely some stuff that we can do without making these decisions yet. So I want to get in there and do some of that stuff to prepare, and then that way we'll get some things done, and we'll get to see some coding, since I claim to be live coding, and so far I've just been live talking. So we'll do some of that first, and then we'll come back and make some decisions on how exactly we want, you know, visually this to look and for people to be able to search. But I mean, I think it's pretty much agreed, at least in my mind. Somehow I want users to be able to filter these or sort them in some way to find what they want, and more easily than having to actually scroll. Right now there's not that many, but eventually it could be really difficult to find what you want. Not a good user experience. All right, so here's what I was thinking we need to set up. So I know this is a little bit smaller than normal, and that's on purpose because I have had these side by side and I needed to see what was going on. So I will zoom in just a few seconds here, but I have resources on this side because resources is now going to be the model for how we do everything else, because we had a lot of refactoring going on here and some pull requests related to this. So this is kind of the most polished way to do things. We're not using jQuery for everything here. We're doing it, more of the React way. Actually, I just noticed I had my phone right next to the mic, so I apologize if there were any like static sounds. I'm going to move it farther away now. Let me know if you hear static, and then I'll move it like to the other side of the room if I have to. So anyway, this is going to be the model. So I've already started to bring over some of that into here. So if, I will kind of move this over, make this text bigger so we can all see. So instead of just saving this data to props and being done with it, now we're going to set the state, and we are initially going to take this data that's a props, and we're going to use it to set the state, and then we're going to, down here, man, I can't wait until I get all this pulled in through the API so I don't have to scroll through it. But instead of props here, it's going to be state. So I can actually, let's change this to state. I think I have enough code in here for this to work at this point. Let's change it to state, and my dev server should be, yeah, it's working now. So we can see on localhost it did work. All right, so now we're grabbing from state. The reason that's important, if you didn't see what we did with the resources, if you didn't happen to see that show, that's important because now every time we change state, all of these will automatically change. Okay, and that's the React, more of the React way to manipulate the DOM is through changing state, and not as we were doing on some pages using jQuery. All right, so that's done. So that's basically converted to set us up so that however we want to sort this, all we have to do is change the way things are in state, and then all that'll fall into place. We want to add this. So assuming we're going to make some API calls after get initial props, I wanted to add this section here, which we use for our API calls whenever we're doing our live search in the section for resources. I want to extract this out and make it its own component. So I've already extracted some of this out. I'm importing isomorphic fetch. Now, I realized when I first talked about this, I was saying something about, I don't know if this will work because I don't know about how it uses basically polyfills for fetch and everything. I didn't know if this isomorphic fetch only worked on the server side. But then when I was doing this again, I thought that was actually kind of ridiculous and didn't make sense what I was saying before, because obviously whatever's going on here with fetch works on the client side and the server side. This works. Otherwise, our client-side routing would not work. So that definitely works. So I figured maybe I ought to import isomorphic fetch because maybe, and I don't know this yet, I could have tested it, that's what's necessary to make fetch work either way, on client-side or server-side. So I did import that. If you have any insight to know whether or not I need to import it here, just let me know, but I can always take it out. But for now, I'm going to import it. So everything's set up here. I think it's all set up. I need to pass a URL. Yeah, I'm passing the URL in here to get. And I need to pass get URL. Yeah, I need to pass the URL in as well here. And I did have a question about the syntax. I don't know why. So when I'm using an arrow function here, I'm assuming here I don't need to put the parentheses around it, right? Is that a correct assumption since I didn't do it here and it's working? I know there's a delay in the live stream, so I'm not going to get an answer right away, but I'm going to go back to the live chat since now we've come a little bit further. I want to make sure I didn't lose anybody or I didn't miss a good suggestion. And if you have any questions, feel free to put it in the live chat. I think I keep calling the live chat live stream. Sorry about that. Put it in the live chat, or if you can't stick around to wait for the answer, put it in the comments to the video or direct message me on Twitter. I know I say that all the time if you've been watching, but I'm mainly saying it for people who might be new and watching for the first time. All right, so okay, so this is a continuation of the question about async await promises. It says, I saw you use promises in get.json function, but don't use async await there. Okay, yeah, actually, that is a good question. Basically, the reason I didn't do that is because, and this is going to be, this is going to make me sound like a noob, but I'm obviously, if you've watched any of my other episodes, you know I'm not afraid to look like a noob. This is how it was done in the documentation for Next. It had all this kind of pre-made. So this has been adapted slightly to my needs, but this was from there, so I didn't mess with it, and I used it. This I grabbed from a previous project, and I knew it worked, so I grabbed it, and I didn't really modify it too much. The only thing I modified was I used arrow functions so that when I use this inside of here, it would be the right this, which now that I'm extracting this out, I'm not even sure if I'll have the right this anymore, but we can test it and find out. So the answer is I just hadn't even thought of that. I hadn't thought of why I would use it one way or another. I just knew that they worked, and so I kept them like that and didn't really mess with them too much. So that's the honest reason. It's not a really good reason or a reason that makes me look good, but that's really why I didn't use async or await there. If someone else has more knowledge about when to use async await and when to not use it, please put that in the live chat because I'd like to know more about it as well. I think that's how it is sometimes. I don't know if it's like that for all of you, but for me certainly, sometimes you grab some code, you know it works, you know enough about it to modify it to your needs, but you still don't completely know why it works. I mean, I think that's it. I mean, think about, really everybody does that. Like, think about all the packages that projects load from, all the node modules and stuff. I don't know of anybody that knows what everything does and why it does what it does, but we all still use it. So that's what's going on there, basically, is I know it works. I'm not exactly sure why it needs to be like that. All right, so Andrew asks, and what do you have to sort? So maybe, I don't know, maybe Andrew's getting in a little late. Basically, we're sorting this. So we're going to sort by date would be useful to sort by, and date and location are going to be the most useful things to sort by. Presenter maybe, but I could see presenter being more like something you would want to search for, especially because we have doctor in front of a lot of names, so that just messes up our alphabetical order right now. I could maybe try to ask the person that's inputting all this data in WordPress to maybe put a comma and then doctor, so we could, but even so, like, we still have first names. Ideally we would have last name comma first name comma and then title, but that wouldn't really look that nice, so that might end up just being something that's searchable. So in any case, we want alphabetical order for this, and then we want to order by date for this. and possibly alphabetical order for this as well. Dr. Pavel says, hi Jesse, as the title says, find the nearby event. Maybe better made search bar for an exact request and just button, something like show nearest event, use geolocation. That's a great idea. That was my initial idea when the people who I was making the site for requested this section and it said find a nearby event. I immediately thought geolocation, but that's not what they had in mind. So this is one of the areas where I kind of delivered pretty much exactly what the specifications were, but I had intended, if I had time, to do more than what we'll say the client in this case, but really they work at the same organization that I do. So yeah, I agree. It makes, if you're gonna call the section find a nearby event, you would expect some sort of geolocation, or at least some place where you could manually type in your address or something like that. So I'm not going to work on that today because, if people came based on the title of what this is going to be, which is being able to sort a table, data in a table in React, then I'd rather work on that now and then save the geolocation thing for another, maybe tomorrow. But I think that's an awesome idea. Let's see. I had a question from I don't know if it's Michael or Michal. I'm not sure how you pronounce Michal. What's the reason of going with fetch as opposed to a library like Axios? Patrick gave a nice answer to that. Fetch is a new shiny. This is Patrick's answer. Fetch is a new shiny way to make things simple. Simple is the reason those libraries came about. Fetch is built into updated browsers. So yeah, that's a great answer, Patrick. Yeah, Fetch is like is now the newer browsers. It's built in, so like it's more lightweight. You don't have to add an extra library to do the same thing. You just do it with Fetch, and it's easy. I mean, obviously, you could see from how it is here, it's super short. It's really easy, way easier than trying to do it with jQuery or even just straight XHR. So that's why I use it. And with the polyfill, older browsers are fine too, so you can pretty much use it for most projects. Yeah, Patrick says, I think isomorphic means work on client and server in this context. Yeah, definitely. Patrick says single argument doesn't need parentheses. Good to know. All right, so Andrew linked a design for, it looks like, better data tables. So maybe I'll take a look at that. I don't know, Andrew, do you want me to take a look at that now, or should I just check that out later? So anyway, this should work then. Assuming that I'm doing the correct thing when it comes to this, then this should work. So let's go ahead and save this. And wow, where am I at? Projects. I'm going to save this in util. So should we just call this? Maybe I just call it fetch. Do I want to? Yeah. I'm going to go with. I was just checking to see whether or not the other component in here was uppercase or lowercase. So it is already lowercase, so I'll just go with that. So let's call it fetch.js. Whoa. That was weird. If you didn't see that text, it said the editor is not responding, so that would have been bad. Oh, excuse me. Sorry to sneeze. Yeah, that would have been bad if my editor crashed right in the middle of this. Okay, so what am I getting all these? Yeah, I haven't. I'm gonna get weird stuff happening with my editor as far as the hints go because I haven't updated my packages to reflect the stuff that we're doing here. Import isomorphic fetch. I'm definitely gonna get rid of all these soon. All right, so we're gonna save that, and now we need to test this. I'm gonna edit this resources file, and we're gonna import. What do we need to import? We're gonna call. Sorry, I'm just trying to remember which one I call first. We're going to call get JSON, and then that's going to call get. So what I want to grab from there is, I'm just going to copy this since we're going to use the same basic format here. What I want to get is the function get JSON from fetch. Okay. And we don't have to put the .js, obviously. You could see here. And that should be enough. That should work. Cool. So I'm going to save that, and I'm going to bring over resources. And let's see. Now if I search, this should work. So let's go. Nice. It does work. Great. Alright, so now, actually, I'm not even going to look at what's in the live chat right now because I know somebody noticed this and is trying to call me out. I should have removed all that to make sure that it really was working. So now I am removing it. I'm going to do empty cache and refresh just to be sure that I'm getting rid of all that. Now let's try it. Okay, now it's not working. So oh, thanks. You guys are saying bless you from when I sneeze. Thanks, guys. So we have a comment from J. Steve Martinez says fetch has no support on IE. That's true. Yeah, there is no support. So you want to use a polyfill. If depending on what you need to support, if you need to support older browsers, use the polyfill for fetch to have it work in older browsers. So I have used fetch before with the polyfill and gotten it to work in IE 11. I didn't test it any farther back than 11, but it does work. Alright, so I'm going to check out. Andrew's saying that this link he sent is a good example of design for a table. So let's check it out. Oops, maybe... I'm not getting it. I got a 404 when I tried to type that in. What did I mess up? Yeah, I'm getting a 404. So Andrew, I don't know. I tried to type in that link and it's not working for me. Yeah, that's what I did. Andrew's saying change the star with dot. That's what I did. I replaced the I did replace the star with a dot. And whoa, what did it? Still 404. Yeah, okay. So Sebastian's getting a 404 as well. So it's not just me. I thought I was doing something wrong. All right, so let's troubleshoot and see. Let's see what's going on. I guess it's not like I don't have to get this working right now, so really we could skip this and just work on it later, um, and then just get on to some more like the sorting stuff. So I can throw this back in here and get rid of this for now and work on this later. And let's just throw these in here. Oops. Thought I copied these, I guess not. There we go. So we'll just throw those in there for now. Obviously, it would be better to have these separately so we don't repeat ourselves in multiple pages. But for now, this should work. So what we need to do for now, let's do a reverse date. So let's see if we can reverse the date field, because that should be the easiest thing to do. We're going to have, let's find where you have the date. Let me describe to you what's going to happen here so we can go through the steps to make sure this makes sense logically. So what I'm going to do is on the date, I'll bring it over here so we can all see it. So where it says date here, we're going to have an on-click event handler there. So on click, it's going to fire off a call, an API call, that is going to grab this data, and it's going to basically use the same URL, except it's going to order by descending instead of ascending. Alright, that's why I'm starting with this one, because it's going to be so easy to do. At that point, the state is going to get reset with this data that's now sorted in a different way, and then that's going to change the order of these. Does that make sense to everyone? Alright, so we're just going to make a function. I'm going to make the function first before I do the click, the on click, because that's not really a big deal. So we're going to make the function, and all we really need is, when we do this, is to grab, we just need to make a call, an API call. So I'm actually going to grab a lot of what we did over here, just so we don't have to type it out again, because it'll be very similar. Oops. So this is already doing a lot of what we want to do here. We'll just have to change the parameters for the API call. Alright, so basically we're getting, this is the URL, and these are the parameters, which we're now going to change to this. And we're going to change this to descending, so we're going to change the order. And then, so we're making the API call. It's going, why did I split this in between? I don't want to split those up. Okay, so we're making the call here, and then that's going to use fetch within here. It's going to return us JSON, which is great. And then we're going to take that data, that JSON data, and we're now going to make that the state we're going to set that to data in the state. Once the state is set, then that will trigger all the components, to re-render down here. So I'm going to save that, and now what did I call this? We called it sort date. Okay, so let's go down and find where we actually have the word date. Here we go. So let's go on click, and then this is how we do. We just call it Is this how we called it? What's it? Patrick says, why are you not importing get.json and events.js? I'm not sure. I know Patrick's saying dry, man, dry. Yeah, so I want to do it like that, but when I tried it, I don't know if maybe I did it on my other screen and so you all didn't see it, but when I put this in this separate file here and I tried to import it in resources as a test and it didn't work. Maybe I didn't say that out loud and just thought it. Sorry about that. So it didn't work. So instead of spending time trying to fix this right now, I wanted to get more like to the point of the topic. I don't want to be a false advertiser here since I made the title of the video about sorting a table and I tweeted saying that I was going to try to sort a table. I wanted to get to that. If we get this down, I almost said if we get this sorted, but that would have been just trying to be funny. But if we get this down, then I can go back and try to get this. So Patrick, I totally agree with you, and I want to do that. So it's gonna happen, but I just wanted to get something accomplished and not spend my time on something that I didn't absolutely need to be working right here. So this should work great. I know we had I vaguely remember that having some sort of trouble with whether or not, what was I doing? Whether or not I called the function on, and where did I do this? On click. Oh, well, I guess I'll see it in a second. Okay, so right now, let me pull this over. Right now, nothing happened when I click that. So, do I need to call this? Oh, this. I always have to put this in there. Still nothing. Do I have to do it like? I didn't think I had to put that, but yeah, no. This dot get JSON. I got a weird error here saying this dot get JSON is not a function. Yeah, I have it in there, don't I? Right? Oh shoot. I need to use an arrow function for this. Okay. So we just went through this like last week, so already I'm forgetting. So we need to use an arrow function. If you're not familiar with arrow functions, they're a newer thing. It's ES 2015, or sometimes called ES6. In this case, the reason we want to use an arrow function is because otherwise the value of this is not what we want it to be. Okay, so we need this to mean like the context of this, basically this entire component here, right? This, or at least this section of the component. So that's why we did this. So before, when I clicked, it went through here, but it got to this point and it said, I don't know what get.json is. Okay, because it was looking just within this scope. So that's why we use the arrow function, and you actually end up using arrow functions quite frequently in React. At least I've been having to use them frequently, and it's the same concept here when we're using this as well. So I'm sure there are other benefits to using arrow functions, but for our purposes right now, that's the main benefit. That's why we're using it. So I've saved that, and let's check it out. So we've gotten rid of the error. That's a good sign. Oh yeah, and it actually did what we wanted. So I'm going to refresh that so we can see it happen now. Okay, whoa. Oh shoot. Because I'm calling it. I knew I didn't have to put that on there. Anyway, if you're wondering what I'm talking to myself about here, originally I didn't call that there, but then it didn't work, and I thought, hey, it's not working because I didn't do it right, but that's probably not what happened. So anyway, it was just being invoked. At least I think. Let's test it out and see if that's in fact what did happen. Okay, good. So when I click this, we should see the switch. Yep, there we go. Awesome. So we started with events in June being here and going further down into the timeline, further ahead in the future. Now we're starting with the latest event and working backwards. So that works. That works like we wanted to. So since that works, I'm going to go to the live chat and just check out, make sure I haven't missed anything important. And then we'll see what time it is. All right, it's been like almost an hour to get to this point, so I'll see. Maybe we'll do some more. Obviously, we want it on a second click. We want to be able to sort the other way as well. So think about that for a minute while I go through the live chat. I'm wondering if, here's my thought. This was what I was thinking when I first made this function. What I'd probably do is somehow just do like, have some variable. It could even be a Boolean or something that gets checked to true or false when sort date is run, and if it's true, these params will change to either be ascending or descending. So I don't have to write another function that does this. I just switch this function in or out. So it would accept, yeah, I don't know. Somehow I would switch that off. That's what I'm thinking. If you have a better idea, please let me know. So let's catch up here with the live chat. I was reading, we had some other suggestions here for trying to get that article to work that Andrew had linked to. So I'll have to check it out. All right, I'm going to copy and paste again this new link that was sent. Yay, that worked this time. So cool. Cool, it looks good. I'm scrolling through this on my other screen here. This looks really cool. I am going to look through this after the stream and see. I think I mentioned this before, but I'm a little bit restricted in terms of, let me bring this over. Like in terms of layout, like a lot of these decisions as to how this worked, like to make a change really like required a meeting and discussion. So so some changes are probably fine and I can make it and it wouldn't be a big deal, but some changes may require like more meetings. Like I would make the change and then get an email or a phone call shortly thereafter, and so if the change is like for sure, like needs to be done, would make it so much better, then I'm down to do that. But if it's not really going to be a huge benefit to change it, then it's probably not worth it to go through all of that. So just so you know, if you make a suggestion, even if it's awesome, I might not use it, and it's not because I don't think it's awesome. It's just because of that, because of other factors. So, so don't feel bad if your suggestion doesn't make it in. It's not exactly up to me what makes it in and what doesn't. All right. It looks like I didn't really miss that much in live chat. I did a somewhat decent job of keeping up with it. Patrick does mention the arrow function lexically binds this to the parent scope. That's how you say it. So thanks, Patrick. So Patrick has given a very accurate, correctly worded definition here for what I was trying to say with this. So I'll read that again just because it was so good. The arrow function lexically binds this to the parent scope. So all right, Patrick says, I feel like you should be using state for this. So do you mean, is that in reference to me saying something about I needed to go both ways, like to switch the date, and I was talking about some sort of variable that I would use, like a Boolean or something? If you're talking about that, let me know if you're talking about something else. Patrick says, thanks Scott Allen for that. Watched a video about it yesterday. So his arrow function statement there. So cool. I mean, I know, like, going through what was it, the book, is it You Don't Know JS? Is that the one that's on GitHub and is totally free? So I remember one of those books or something. I remember getting the official definition at some point, but it's hard to remember. Okay, so alright, so J. Steve Martinez says sort date is getting the data you should already have in your state. Are you meaning, let me see, are you meaning that basically I already have all this data in the state from before, so I don't need to make another API call? So let me know. I think that's what you mean. Let me know if I'm wrong about that. Patrick says, the fact that this table can be sorted means it has multiple states. Keep this stuff in state and let React render the DOM based on it. Okay. So let's see. Okay, and Jesse Okaya says, does Next.js when in production have an index.html file? I encountered an issue using Next. How do you deploy with no index.html file? No, I don't think there's an. So you would need to deploy it to something that runs Node. So Node can run an index.js instead of an index.html. So that's what you need. So it may depend on where you're deploying it to as to what has to happen. I don't know. Maybe if anybody in the live chat has a better answer, please add to what I said. But could you explain maybe more about what your production environment is? Like what are you running in terms of the server, and then maybe I give you a better answer. Okay, so back to the whole state thing. Help me out here. So basically, the state. So saying keep this stuff in state and let React render the DOM based on it. That's okay. So Jonathan has just said basically what I was kind of thinking here. Can't we just sort the data? So do this data sort. So yeah, actually, I've thought about doing that. I think I explained at the beginning whether or not. So I had kind of two options: either just sort the data that I already have, which will work fine for now because we don't have that many events, or make a separate API call. The reason being, when I make an API call, at some point when we get lots of events, I'm not going to grab every single event with that first call. So I'm not actually going to have all the data saved in state like right off the bat. So the idea, what my thought process was, is would a user expect, if they hit this date here, and let's say we have 500 events and I've only loaded 100 events, they're not necessarily going to know that I've only loaded 100 events. If I'm only sorting the data I already have, then they're only getting, a small number. What is that? If I had 500, they're only getting 100. They're only getting a fifth of the possible events. Now, the reason I'm saying 100 is because in the WordPress API, there's a limit on how many of the post types you can grab, how many particular posts in that type, and the limit is 100. I'm assuming there's some way around that. I just don't know it right now. So based on what I have right now, that was my thinking for making a separate API call. So anybody have any insight on that? Maybe I'm thinking too much about this and it would be fine to just sort what I have. But I expect at some point that there will be quite a few events in here. I don't really know what to expect exactly. I'm not getting this data and I'm not entering this data in, so I'm not sure. Maybe there'll never be that many events, but I'd like to be prepared for that. Okay, so Jonathan said that makes sense. Okay, all right, good. Yeah, I kind of my first thought was simpler and it seemed a lot easier. Like, I'll just sort all the data that I already have, and potentially that would be faster anyway. It already happens pretty fast, so I'm not worried that much about speed. But all right, so that's why I'm making another API call. It's not going to be that easy, I think, with everything as the date. The date's the easiest thing to sort on, but that's the basic idea. So I think before I end this video, I wanted to keep the videos short, like around an hour. So since there's not a lot of questions, I think I'm going to finish up with at least this portion so that we can, when we click on it again, it takes us back to the initial state. So I'd like to finish that because I think that would give, if anybody else wants to watch this and implement something similar, if we finish at least that one, that would give enough info, I think, to repeat it with multiple rows. So let's try to finish this up and then I'll end the video. Normally I do, kind of an actually pretty long Q&A session at the end, but there's just not a lot of questions, so we won't have to do that. So Patrick says, okay, well, you want to conditionally sort based on the current state of the table. You need to store that in state also. Don't retrieve the data over and over if the user clicks date again. Okay. Thank you for the explanation. That makes perfect sense. So Patrick's point here is, so I had, initially when it loaded, I had all the data from this API call saved in state. And then I overwrote all that with everything in this API call. Now when I want to click that again, I'm basically going to make this API call again, which doesn't make any sense. Why not, if I've gotten this data once, why not keep it stored? So that does make sense. And Patrick, let me know if that is in fact what you meant. I think it is, but if not, let me know. So the thing is, it's not enough for us just to keep making these API calls again and again, because that's a waste. Although we will be caching API calls, so technically it won't necessarily require a search through the database on the WordPress end, but still it does make sense. It'd be better to just keep it in state. So let me think. I'm just thinking about how I'm going to do this so that I can keep things in state. And here's what I'm thinking. Let me know if this makes sense or if you have a better idea. So basically, I'm still going to do this at the beginning. This is going to be saved to data, right, in state. Then when you click to sort, before this gets stored to data, I'm going to basically take what's currently stored in data and I'm going to store it in some other variable. So I don't even know. Maybe I'll call it old data right now. I don't know. There's going to be a better name probably, but any name will work. So basically everything that was in data now gets stored in old data. And so we still keep it all. And then at the point when I want to switch back, I just take I can take what's in old data and flip it back up to data and just switch them out basically. So I keep both of them. Now it becomes more complicated when I add this to the other rows. And do I want to keep every call? So I may have to, yeah, I certainly could keep every call and just make different, different sections within the state, to hold them all. Does that make sense? Okay, Sebastian says, save the sorted data in sorted data. Oh, and I got some detailed advice here, so let me read through this. Patrick says, so grab ascending once, grab descending once, and then render based on state. All right, awesome. So it looks like I did get that right. So Umberto says, for name, if you're pretty sure that the last name will always be last, you could do a sort by like current val dot split. And okay, so you're saying I can split it. I'm actually not certain that the last... I'm not certain of anything concerning the name. I could probably suggest a naming convention and have it right there in the instructions for whoever's importing it in. So assuming that they follow the instructions, maybe I could have some certainty that would be it. So maybe. All right, so let's get to this. Let's take a crack at this saving stuff in state. And I'm actually pretty excited about this because, I mean, this kind of gets, at least for me, this kind of gets to the thing that's cool about React, is, changing of state and having things re-render on the page very quickly, right? That's what's awesome about React, among other things. So being able to manipulate things like this is what I'd like to be able to do better than I'm already doing it. So, because I need to move out of building things like this in jQuery to building things like this in React, which is much preferable to the mess that usually happens when I try to build this out in jQuery, which starts out very simple and nice, and then as features get added, it just becomes very hard to maintain. So let's just kind of try out, let's say, for now I am going to use just the silly name of old data. No, that's not what I want. I want to set the state. So this set state, and I want to use let me what do I want to use? I guess I can just call, I will call it old data. So stop me if I'm doing this wrong, but I'm going to use old data now. Oops. Just going to use data, right? That's what needs to happen. And then now this gets set, so that'll be safe. So that's the first step. And I've just saved it, and I've got no error messages. I have it up on my other screen, so that's a good sign. now we need a way to switch it back. So how am I going to do this? Let's see if I could just do I'm blanking out here. Sorry. Sorry, I'm actually don't forget to set up the default state. Oh, okay. Sebastian says, why not make both API calls on page load and then save them to state? Then make the button just change what is displayed, pulled from the state. That's a great idea. However, at least I probably could do it on componented mount. So I can't make another API call here. At least I've tried before and it's come up with errors. So I assume there's some way to make multiple calls here, so it's not going to be here. But what I could do is on componented mount, I could do it then. Would that be preferable? Ought I to make all the API calls that I need on page load, or should I wait? Because a user may not ever even click to need that. Would it just be? What do you all think? Would that be preferable? Because if a user did use it, it would be faster, or would it be more of a waste of bandwidth because I'd be making lots of unnecessary API calls? I don't really have a decision one way or the other at this point. I'm going to think about it, so let me know. Okay, so Patrick's saying set up the default state. Do you mean like here I need to set like old data up here and then have it do this? I'm assuming that's what you meant. Okay, so this stat state old data equals data. So we've got that. Oh, now I know. That's what I need to do. I should have wrote in some comments what was going to happen so I wouldn't forget. That's what I usually do. But so basically here we need to have check what the current state is and change data. Okay, so basically I need to figure out which way it's sorted, ascending or descending, and then change the data. So I need to flip this data around one way or another. But I need to know. I need some way. So what did I say earlier? I was just gonna have some check like so we can make it actually, what if we had this is my idea. What if we also added, so let's say for each row, so basically we have data, and that's always going to be what gets rendered there is whatever's in data. But then for each row, we not only have, old data, and then I'm going to change it. So this will end up being like date ascending, date descending. We'll probably have that. So let's just do that now, since that's what it's going to be. Date ascending, and then date descending, but then also we're going to have date current state. Does that make sense? Is that too much? Because this thing could end up being like repeated for several of the rows. But my thought is eventually we could have the ascending and descending both saved to these. And then this will just basically say whether or not it's ascending or descending. And that doesn't have to be a value. That could end up being a just a true or false, right? So I mean, it could maybe be something like, is date ascending, true or false, right? I don't know. This seems more descriptive to me of what it's actually doing, though. Let me know what you all think. I don't need that. Okay, so what it will do then is check. So too many commas in class. I think Jonathan just said too many commas. I think he was referring to this last comma that I just took out. So all right. Sorry, I'm kind of like really slow. It's actually super hot here, and I'm literally just like sweating and sweating. I don't want to turn my fan on because it's gonna mess up the sound for the video, but I'm like dressed up, in dress clothes and everything for my job, and I'm just like dying here. So actually, I'm gonna get some water. Hold on a second. I don't have to go anywhere. I'm just gonna kind of pour it right here. Okay. All right, cool. Jonathan said you got it. That's what I thought. It's tough because there's a delay when we're doing this. So I think sometimes there is like a little mix up of things. Sebastian said it's 31.5 degrees C in his room, which I'm in the United States, so I don't really know how hot that is. So anybody know what that is in Fahrenheit? I could look it up real quick. Alright, so that is really hot. That's like almost 90 degrees Fahrenheit for those of you in the US. So I actually use Celsius and the metric system when I'm cooking. But then for the temperature, I use Fahrenheit. And I don't think that's common to use it for cooking in the US. People still stick in Fahrenheit, but all the cooking shows that I like are all usually from the UK. And so they use Celsius. So anyway, let's get back to this. So Sebastian, he feels my pain right now because it's also super hot where he is. Okay, so I still need some way. So I have these set up, at least a place to store what I want to store, but I still need some way to set that and then check it. So actually, the initial state is always going to be ascending. Right? Because that's what we're loading first. So the initial state for that will be ascending. So I guess I could just put it in there. I mean, ought I to just put it right there? Oh, okay, we just had a bunch of stuff in the live chat. I'm gonna check. Flanky, I'm not sure how to pronounce FLANCKE, says old data could be an object that holds the query params that were used to get the data from the API. So you can specify what old data exactly holds, and you don't have to do the same API request again. Okay, so it could hold the query. It could actually hold the params. Okay. I'm just checking out the code that was just put in live chat just to see what's going on there. Okay. I'm wondering. Actually, all right. I just had an idea. Sorry if this is annoying you. I keep having ideas and changing things, but if this would make sense, this might actually work better than whatever I was trying to do right here. So I have set it up before, and I have it set up basically. I've set up caching of the API calls. Like when I did something like this, but I did it with all jQuery stuff, I set up caching of the API calls so that obviously I wouldn't have to make more requests. And it was set up so that every time an API call was made, so basically this portion had a check inside of here. And so it checked to see if those query params had already been saved. And the reason I thought about this is because Flanky just had the suggestion of saving the actual params along with the data. So that got me thinking, like, well, why not do that? And so basically, it would be key. We could essentially have key value pairs stored up, and the key would be the query params themselves, or in fact, the entire URL would be the key, and then the value would be the data. So that each time I go to make the API request, it checks to see if it's already been made, and if it has been made, instead of making the API call, it just returns what was saved and the key value pairs. It could be saved. I think when I did it before, I actually saved it in local storage, and I gave it an expiration as well. So there was another piece of data there too, but I don't know. Does that make sense? Does that make more sense than the way I'm doing it right now? To kind of like basically simplify things so that I don't have to spell all of this out beforehand, and it just kind of would build everything up and store it. I don't know. Let me know. I'm just wondering, so what I just described, I'm just wondering, like, would that be the React way to do things? Like I said before, I used local storage to do that. But is that not the React way to do it? Would the React way to do it, in fact, be to just have it all set in state and do it like that, and not hit local storage, not save stuff in there? At this point, I think I'm kind of overthinking it. I knew that's why if you read the tweet that I put out for this video, I said I'm attempting to do this. I wasn't sure that I would actually get it done. Alright, so I'm not getting any response back. It may be a little bit of a delay, so I'm not getting a response back on this. And I'm also losing viewers, so I suspect that some people are in agreement with me that I'm overthinking this and it's taking too long. So click once. Actually, let me do a silly thing. Let toggle. Can I use that? Or is that not? Let state toggle equal 0. State toggle plus plus. Alright, if you're watching this and you're thinking, what am I doing, then I'm kind of thinking that too, so just wait. The idea is this. This is actually going to be really simple. Why not just set this variable? Oops, I need to set this actually somewhere else outside of here. So let's actually make date current state equal to Can I just set something in state? I don't have to make it equal to an array, right? Could I just potentially make this equal to 0? And then current state, this, let's see, this dot current state. I don't think this will work. I've never tried this before. This set state, old data. Let's go with this dot state dot current state. Oh man, I think my editor froze. It's not letting me do it. There we go. Alright, awesome. That's what I thought. Patrick just confirmed that I can set properties however I want. Where am I at? Okay, so the idea is basically, like I'm just going to be able to click on this a bunch of times. So instead of, I don't know, an easy way might be like, let's just increment every time I click it. And then if it's an odd number, it's the ascending. If it's an even number, it's descending. Does that make sense to anybody? And then that way, it'll just keep track. So what I need to do then, I'm setting it initially to 0. Okay, so the first time it runs, alright, it'll just be 1, and then we're going to do an if statement here that's going to say, so we need to make a call at some point. So let's do, alright, so the first time it definitely does, it does have to make the call because we have to get the data. So I guess it would be slightly more complicated than I expected. Alright, Umberto says, I always used bool and set the value to exclamation point value. So value to not value. Okay. Let me know. Does this make sense how I'm doing it, or is this just silly and more complicated than it needs to be? Be honest with me, because I'm this is taking a lot longer than I expected it to, and I kind of want to just either finish this tomorrow or like get it working as fast as possible and then fix it up tomorrow or something. I'd hate to just end the video at this point, because it would feel slightly like a failure, even though we kind of did what we wanted to do. Okay, Patrick says it does make sense, but it's a bit harder to understand when you come back to it. Okay. I do agree. I think it would just be better if I could just have one value or another. Here's what I'm thinking though. I'm just blanking here on maybe I should try streaming in the morning and my brain would be better. At times maybe it's the fact that I am streaming and so I'm trying to think and talk, but occasionally it just seems like I'm better able to figure out this sort of thing when I'm not streaming. I like to do it with all of you because you give me great ideas too, but in terms of my contribution to this, it always seems harder when I'm doing it. But anyway, what I basically am stuck at is when I click, how do I change whatever value I'm going to put here, whether it be a Boolean or what, and then check that here. Like, I know what needs to happen, but the step in between, I'm just drawing a blank on what the best way to do that is. Okay, Umberto has an idea. And we also, Flanky says, if WordPress returns only the first 500 resources, is there a flag that says if there are more? In this case, if we know all resources are returned, then we can just sort it on the front end. Okay, WordPress only returns 100 resources, but regardless, the point is still valid. I don't think there's a flag that returns. I'll have to check the documentation to see if there's. It may have to be a separate API call, but the API call, I might be able to just get the number of how many I'm dealing with. So yeah, but there's no flag. I mean, this is the data that gets returned, and that's all. It's just this repeated over again. I am cutting out some of the fields, so there probably would be some sort of ID. Let me see if there's an ID field. Okay, so there is an ID, but it looks like that's not going to help me. I was thinking that it would start at like 1 and keep going up, but it looks like it doesn't, because this is registering 260, and there's no way I have 260, so that won't help. Let me just take all of this out right now and see. Let's get everything and see if there's something. I've never seen anything that I know of, but I've never looked either. No. Alright, looks like there's nothing there that would tell me. So anyway, I mean, that was a good thought. I wish it did work out like that. I know it's possible to edit the API within WordPress to make it do other things that it doesn't do, but I'm not as confident with my PHP skills as I would need to be, I think, to make that happen. Nuno says, hi, really nice lives, good work. Thanks for watching. Alright, so Patrick says, how about date is ascending true, and that's default, date is ascending equals not date is ascending. Okay. Alright, so let's see. So basically, let's see. So let's change. I do like, I'm going to go with date is ascending, since that is state. Date is ascending equals. true. Alright, that's the first one. So now when we get in here, we toggle, so date is ascending equals date is ascending. Okay, so now this is going to toggle, and then within here we're going to do one or the other. But I still do have one issue, and that's basically I don't want to make this call every single time. What I could do is set up that cache like I was talking about earlier, so it doesn't matter. I can make this call every time, and it's not actually going to call anything if it's cached, because I'll cache it up in here somewhere. Or otherwise, I need a way for within here for this to only run once. Or potentially, I guess I could have this check as well to say if, oh yeah, I can just check the state, right? I can just check and see if there's any data in descending, then I'm not going to make that call, right? Yeah, that makes sense, and that won't require me setting up a separate cache, which might be complicated. So, is data, oops, now let me say, if this dot state, and I forget what I called it, date descending, I could probably just check the length, right? Length, Shelly NGTH, length is greater than 0, right? If length is greater than 0, then we're going to do all this stuff, right? Otherwise, and not only, so this will actually be wrapped, nested if statements. This is going to be wrapped if date so you want this to be with if it is ascending, if date is ascending. So I mean, if that is true, then we want to do this. And actually, let's, if this is else, so we need an else. After I do this, then let me know if there's a way I could refactor this to make it better. But just to get this done, I'm doing it like kind of a very basic way, I guess. So basically, we wanted to this dot data or dates. Oops, this state. Sorry. Oops. Okay. This state date descending. Right? Yeah. Date descending is going to equal. Oops. No, that. Why am my brain just not working here? So I need this set state. And now I need to set date descending. No, I don't. Wait. Is the state if state length? I need to set data. That's it. That's where I'm going. You set data to date descending. Okay, so date is ascending. Let me make sure that this has happened. So if the date is ascending and date descending length is greater than, no, that's flipped around. If it's, it needs to be, all right, let's say not equal to 0, because that's going to return 0, right? It should, right? Yeah, you guys should have looked. Just like Jonathan, Jonathan caught that before I did. So good look on that one. I'm gonna check the other posts here in the live chat just to see if anyone caught anything else that I messed up on. Oh, okay. So Flanky says, from the WordPress API page, to determine how many pages of data are available, the API returns 2 header fields. So XWP total, the total number of records in the collection. Oh, okay. Very nice. Thank you for that information. I'm not going to do anything with it right now, obviously, because this video has been too long as it is, but I'm going to look that up either, probably not today, I'll probably leave as soon as I'm done with this, but tomorrow, if I get a chance, I will look that up as well. Thank you. Alright, send user states to null for your data and get rid of the length check altogether. Patrick saying, set initial states to null for your data and get rid of the length check altogether. Okay, I will. That sounds good. I will ask though. Initially, for at least for this data, we set this here so that we wouldn't get an error potentially down below. But since we're not directly calling any of these down below, then it shouldn't be an issue, correct? And I'll wait a minute before I change that. To see, hopefully, or if you need more explanation for that. But I think some of you were around for when we did this part on our resources and why we set it like that in the first place. Umberto says, I'm kind of confused. You're checking if we are currently trying to sort by date ascending. You want to check if we have data for date descending? I meant date ascending and date descending. Okay, yeah, that's what I thought. So it shouldn't make a difference then, right? Alright, so basically, Patrick, just to get this right, so I could do something like, should I legit like just put null there, or can I just leave this blank? Let me know. So then down here I could just say get rid of the length, and if this state equals null. So is this what you were thinking? Something like this, or let me know. So anyway, that would work. If it's null, then we need to fill it with something. Otherwise, we need to set data to the date descending, because otherwise that means we actually already have set this at some point, and so we need to set it back. So if date is ascending, if date is already descending, right, so if it's this one, so that would be the else for this, right? Else, we've obviously already switched it over, so all we need to do is something like this, right? Data ascending. So at that point, we don't have to switch any data around, because the first time that this would have been clicked, it would have saved this. All right, we need to change this and set this to data ascending, right? Okay, so first time it's clicked, data ascending gets set, so we never have to set it again, right? Also, first time this is clicked, this gets set to data. So, but we also want actually want this set here. So probably this would be the place where we could set the date descending, set data to date descending. Or I'm sorry, set date descending to data, right? Yeah. So whatever the date descending. Okay. Alright, let's try. I think I'm at the point where I could actually try this. And I'm sure if there's some error, you all have seen it. And you'll let me know. Data sending. Oops. Oh, good look. Okay, so Patrick had a wonderful idea. He's like, obviously I don't need to call set state twice, so I can just do descending. Can I do it like so? Could I potentially do? So I could do it like that. I mean, I'm assuming this would both happen in order as well, so it would be fine. And I'm assuming that's what you were referring to, Patrick. Okay, and I fixed that. Alright, so let's see. I was getting an error. I'll bring this over so you can see. Why am I getting an error? I'm just restarting the dev server because occasionally that causes problems. Okay, cool. So Patrick has verified then that that is what he was referring to, what we just changed. All right, great. We got a page load. Always a good sign. And let's go down here. So everything loaded up, so we haven't broken that. And now here's going to be the first click. And nothing happened on the first click. All right, so let's see. Let me just see if we're gonna get any errors here. Where's my console? I'll bring the console over so we can all see the errors. So here's what we're getting. Oh, let's go to the top here. Okay, uncaught reference error. Date is ascending is not defined. Yep. Now I understand what is going on here. So it's going to be this dot date is ascending, right? That's why they couldn't find it. Am I using, where else am I using that? This dot date is ascending is equal to, how would I, so would I need to, could I just do it like that? Or should I actually write in something else? Alright, so anyway, hopefully this works. Where am I at? I just want to check and make sure I'm not using this anywhere else. If I highlight it, it should show me. Yep, this. There we go. And let me make sure I'm not. Oops, and it needs to be state too. There we go. This state. This is state data sending. Okay, I think that's everywhere that I'm referencing something in state that I need to change. So okay, here's the next error I'm getting. It's saying data is not defined on line 59. Let's check it out. Oh, no. Obviously, that's not it. Where am I not defined? Where's data not defined? Sorted. All right. Where? I'll show this. I'll show this to you all again because obviously I'm using data a lot, so I'm trying to figure out why it's saying it's not defined. Let me check the live chat. See. Maros caught that this state data is ascending thing before I did, so thank you. I didn't look over and see that you caught that, but thanks for catching that. Patrick also looks like everybody caught it except for me, and I just didn't look over in time to see it. Oh, okay. I see what Patrick is saying. So basically, what's happening here is the default state is ascending, right? But then here I'm setting the state. Let me take this out because I'm not actually doing that. Here what I'm doing is I'm setting the state to say that it's not ascending, and then I'm checking this. So obviously it's checking to see if this is ascending, and it's saying no, it's not ascending, so set it to ascending. So that's why I'm not seeing anything happen. So Patrick rightly says put this at the bottom. Okay. And I didn't do anything about that error that says data is not defined, so I expect to get that again, I suppose. Alright, so here's the error that I'm getting. Data is not defined. Now it's saying it's at line 52. This set state data. Why are we getting... Okay, so data should be... Maybe it's a problem with the API call. I'm going to check real quick to make sure that this actually works. Okay, so alright, that does actually work. So when I put this in the browser, it is returning data. So we should be getting data back. And let's see. In that case, the data you're referencing should be this state data. Also, you need to use set state for the toggle. Oh, okay. Yeah. Good. Alright, so I got some input about these errors here. So it should be data, date descending, not date descending data. So where are we at? This set state. And where are we at? Else. You're right. Wait, actually. So Flanky is saying it should be data colon date descending, not the other way around. Which line are you talking about? Patrick said also you need to set state. Okay, so I do need to set state for the toggle. So this state date is ascending. So, and I do need it for the toggle. I need to set state. So I need this dot set state. And we're gonna go date is ascending, and I should be able to just to do this dot set state. Oops, this dot state dot date is ascending. No. Yes. No. Wait a second. This state date is ascending equals oh, I see. I see I've messed this up a bit. Alright, so this is line 48. I have data ascending instead of date ascending in line 48. Okay, so I have like two different issues that I'm both getting feedback on in the live chat. So I apologize for those watching the recording of this because you can't see the live chat because there's a lot going on in there. So in regard to the error of the data, okay, then we're saying data is at this point not local to this function, so it needs to be this state data, which makes sense. That's why I'm saying data is not defined. In this case, it's okay because we're getting the data from this call, so it'll be okay. And then where else am I using data? So down here, I also need to use it. State. Auto completed for me. Okay, this state data there. Okay, great. So that should fix that error. I'm just going to check that real quick. So I'm going to ignore this for just a second just to make sure I'm not getting that same error. Oops. I got a different error. So that's good. I didn't get the same error. And where am I at? Oh, okay. Shoot. Yeah, this threw an error really quick. So let me just take this out just for a second. I just want to make sure to take this one at a time. I want to make sure that I fix the data error thing. And it looks like I'm not getting that error, but I'm still not getting the result that I want. So Okay. Yeah. So evidently you fixed the error. Okay. Okay, it looks like I have a typo as well. Matt says there's a typo in the left half of the colon declaration. The second A should be an E. All right, let me try to find that. This state data. What am I looking at? I don't see it. Was it in here? I'm trying to find the typo, but I'm not finding it. Okay, so Patrick says you're moving things around in state as if it is a cache. You need to make sure that when you are moving something in state, you reference it with this state data. Okay. Oh yes, thank you. I need curly brackets. Okay. That obviously is an issue. Let's see. Matt Robinson says yes in line 48. We're at 48. This set state date ascending. There we go. Thank you. I looked in this area several times. I just couldn't see it. Thank you very much. Thanks Matt, Agon, and Patrick for everybody responded with the line, so everybody could see that except for me. Okay, so I think we're really close to this. The only part that I'm not sure on, so Patrick in particular, but anybody can contribute here. So I know I edited this a little bit from what it was originally. Have I messed this line up, line 56? Do I need to change this? It was originally different than this, correct? Patrick says it's much easier to catch mistakes when you're just watching. Delete it. Okay, good. Thanks, Patrick. So Patrick says I can delete this line. Let's see. So this set state data is ascending. This set state. And then add to set state. Patrick says I need to add an exclamation point to the set state. Do I add it? I'm just going to add it in here. Let me know if that's not the right place. Do I add it in here? Oh, there's another. Morrow sees line 56 before this state. Okay, line before this state declaration. Okay, good. So that is in fact. Yep. All right. Awesome. Okay, I've saved that, and let me bring this over. If I get any errors as well, I'll bring the console over, and let's try it out. What is going on? Oops, wrong page. All right. All right. Let me refresh that. Okay, so that's what it should be, and we click it. Great. Now let's click it again. Okay, when we click it again, we get an error. Well, at least it worked. At least we didn't get crazy errors at first, right off the bat. So data sending is not defined in events.js 56. Let's check it out. 56. All right, that's what we were just talking about. So date is, where am I at? Date ascending is not defined. In line 56. I'm not even using that, am I, in line 56? This set state date is ascending. This state date is ascending. What the opposite is. Okay. That's an odd error, right? Am I missing something? Obviously, I'm not even using this on line 56, but I am using it. This state data. Oh, do I need to do this state data equals this state? That's probably it. Alright, now let's bring this over. Let me refresh. Okay. Alright, so click changes. Nice. Okay, it worked. In case you didn't catch that, it did work. We clicked once and we clicked twice, and the first two clicks worked. The third click, however, gives us an error here. Date descending is not defined, which at this point this is easy because I feel like keep having the same error instead of just this state date descending. Okay, and that makes sense because this wouldn't actually have fired until the third click anyway. So good. So this was the only line that hadn't fired yet. So assuming we fix this, which I think we did, this should work. So I'm just gonna make sure I refresh to reset the state back to the original state. It figures the dev server would just hang. So all right, I feel it. I feel like we're close. I said at the beginning that this is going to be one of those times when I don't really know what I'm doing or how I'm going to do it, but I'm going to learn a lot and I'm going to feel really good when it happens. And I think this is about to happen. Alright, so click 1, works. Click 2, works. Here's click 3, it works. Yay! We go back and forth. And just to show the network, let's see if we can find, I'll show you the network. So here is where we actually got our descending things. So you can see it's only fired once. We just clicked like, I don't know, 6-7 times. It only fired once. So we did only fetch the data one time and it never fires again after that. So awesome. Great job, everybody. For sure, yay, on this one, this was a little bit me and mostly all of you helping out. So I pretty much just brought the, here's what we need to do, and then you all brought most of the other stuff. I really appreciate that. This has been, wow, over 2 hours of a video. I did so well yesterday. It was like an hour, you know, so I was doing good, and then we went over. So we went way over the normal time. Hey, thanks everybody. There's some Christian said congrats, but thanks for the congrats. But really, like, congratulations to all of you for kind of coaching me through all that. I'm sure it was frustrating at some times when it actually cooled down in my office and my brain's a little bit more clear now, but there was a time there in kind of the middle that my brain was just not working, and you all kind of had to hold my hand there and take baby steps with me. So yeah, I appreciate that. Foysel says we hope we see you soon. So yeah, I hope I see you all soon. So thank you very much for all the help, and hopefully this helps somebody watching to know how to do this. Obviously, you could, repeat these steps. Now, I will say this in particular, we're using the WordPress API, right? So I'm basically doing the sorting through the WordPress API. if you wanted to do this and you like already had the data and you didn't want to make another API call, then you'd have to do the sorting on the data you already had. If we had done it that way, I think it would have been helpful to more people. But obviously, as we discussed earlier, in this case, at least at this point, since I can only get 100 entries per page for the events, I needed to keep making API calls because I think that otherwise the user would not be seeing everything, all of the events available. So just so that's clear, that there's a different way to do it, to actually sort on the data. Maybe I'll have an opportunity to do something like that if I can figure out how to get all the entries or something, because I would like to do that as well, because I think it would be helpful for you all, and certainly there'll be occasion for me to use it in the future. But other than that little caveat, hopefully this is some stuff that you can use in your projects, and this was certainly helpful for me. So I'll be back tomorrow at 2, and I'm thinking Friday I might not do a stream. So I was gonna do a stream earlier in the day, but I now have a meeting, so I don't think I'll be able to do it early. I'm going on vacation next week, but I'm leaving Friday night, and I'm going to drive through the night. So it takes about 8 hours to get where I'm going, to the beach, and I'm driving my family through the night so the kids can all sleep. And I think I probably should leave work early and take a nap so that I can safely drive throughout the night. So it'd be probably best if I left work a little bit early, so I don't think I'll be able to do a stream. If something changes, I'll certainly let you know, but as of right now, I don't think a stream will be possible for me on Friday. I really wanted to do one, since I may not be able to do one for a whole week, but really, I really do want to make sure that I'm awake enough to drive safely, through the whole night. So I do plan on hopefully making some recorded videos and maybe releasing them next week. So hopefully you'll have that. So you may not have any live streams, but I'll be releasing recorded videos, and those will go on my YouTube channel. FreeCodeCamp is just for the live streams, and then my recorded videos will be on my channel. So anyway, so enough talk from me. You all are awesome that you stuck around this long, and I know some of you in different time zones. It's like 2 o'clock in the morning now, so go to sleep, and I'll see y'all tomorrow. And thanks again.